Hello, everybody. Scott Golden here with the No Surrender review for Impact Wrestling on the 13th of uh, February. Easy for me to say. For some reason, I wanted to say November. Anyway, 13th of February, uh, 2021. Overall, not a terrible show. I still cringe at the thought that this company believes they need to have monthly special shows. It reeks of we're trying to be like other brands. If they were smart, they'd do them maybe every other month at most. Perhaps quarterly would even give them more leverage, kind of like an AEW feel, or maybe even twice a year. The methodology of doing them monthly doesn't fit with a company at this size at this time. Although they are trying to grow, they're just not doing it as quickly as they intended. In any event, show opened with a career retrospective of Tommy Dreamer, who turns 50. I don't know that I'd be highlighting a 50-year-old man as the main eventer in my program. This is not ECW in 1997-98. When doing so with Terry Funk made sense because they built that into Terry Funk as the legend who deserved that opportunity for several years before they actually did that. And also, Tommy Dreamer is, no offense to him, but no Terry Funk. In any event, we open with a promo where he basically says he'll be wearing the same boots that he wore when he won his first world title, which was, to be fair, 21 years ago, I believe. And then he knows this may be his last shot. At least he's in touch that much. Decay, which is Rosemary, Crazy Steve, and Black Taurus, defeats Triple XL, AC Romero, Larry D, and Tennille Dashwood with Caleb with a K. I don't know why, if you have Caleb with a K, Caleb Connolly is a tremendous talent. I don't know why you'd throw him on the outside of the ring and throw some other people in there that they have. Rosemary has been certainly making some enemies lately. Rosemary and Dashwood have been feuding for a while. Maybe a few weeks, maybe a few months at most. That's kind of there. I'm not a fan of Dashwood's, to be completely honest. I feel like the gimmick is overkill and trying too hard. Rosemary has been bullied about being left by Talia. Larry D and Ace Romero blame Rosemary for Larry D being framed for the murder of Johnny Bravo. Yes, they actually did this crazy storyline. Rosemary recruits Crazy Steve and Black Taurus from AAA to help her in her quest to vanquish all of this stuff. Decay has the upper hand in every direction for a little while here. Caleb interferes and trips Crazy Steve, so Triple XL can finally cut them off. Triple XL get the heat on Crazy Steve for a couple of minutes. Steve manages to escape, tags Taurus for I guess you'd say, a pretty good run. He goes nuts, meaning Taurus. Caleb once again gets involved. Dashwood wants to take pictures as a matador. And Taurus and D trade dives. Everyone brawls outside of the ring. Rosemary Romero power bombs Dashwood over everyone. I don't like the man on woman stuff, but it is what it is. And then they're brawling on the outside. And then finish sees Rosemary take out Romero with a green mist, allowing Taurus to pin D after a spinning Michinoku driver. That was pretty impressive in and of itself. Not a bad opener. D'Lo Brown and Matt Striker are the announcers. They are the best announcers in wrestling right now in terms of, I would say, AEW with Shivani and Ross, but Excalibur ruins things. And there's no one in WWE that's at their level. Anyway, so we go to Brian Myers and Hernandez defeating Eddie Edwards and Matt Cardona. Myers and Edwards have been feuding for a while. Um, Basically, Myers has been calling Edwards a backyard wrestler. Myers recruits Hernandez to take out Edwards. Cardona comes to save Edwards from a 2-on-1 attack, and that's what ends up here. Eddie becomes the babyface in peril pretty early, um, and he does a blind tag to Hernandez, and Edwards gets nailed with a clothesline. Hernandez and Myers focus on Edwards and his midsection rib cage and all of that. Edwards cuts off Hernandez and drops him with a superplex, which just looks awkward. Edwards uh, gets the tag to Cardona finally. He comes in pretty hot. Things break down. Cardona and Myers. Um, and then Cardona ends up getting dropped on the exposed turnbuckle. And he hits a lariat for the win. And I mean, Brian Myers and Hernandez get get the win there. I don't know. Cardona is a really talented guy. I still don't think he's found his rise. Myers, who to me is one of the better people to come out of WWE that was never used properly, I think is being wasted here. Hernandez, I've never been a fan of at all. I don't see it. And Edwards, I think, especially being a former world champion for this promotion, is being wasted in second match fodder. Jake Something defeats Diener with Violent by Design. Um, Something has a bit of a new look to go with his new name. He does a bunch of power spots. Young and Doring basically are what kept their man alive in Diener. Diener gets heat on Something for a bit, and they kind of go back and forth for a while. The Pillmanizing of the leg is teased, as was done last week. Something shows signs of coming back and gets cut off almost every time. It's a pretty basic story. Doring and EY interfere wherever they can. Something gets more and more angry until he basically mounts a comeback. Last couple of minutes see both men trade several near falls. Something tries to superplex Diener to the floor. Why are we doing superplexes in back-to-back matches? We've got to know. Diener manages to escape. It's a power bomb for a near fall. Gets a 2 count. Something takes EY and Doring out with a dive and hits a blockbuster or black hole slam for the win. This is fine. I don't like the Jake Something gimmick. I don't really care for the Cody Diener gimmick and name. But they worked hard. They did the best they could with what they had. The story is flat, though, and kind of anticlimactic. Young and Doring jump Something. And then there's a lariat. Top rope power bomb from Young through a table. And I mean, the match was fine. It just feels like a story that I'm not sure would get over even if there were people. Eddie and Alicia Edwards give a gift to Tommy Dreamer for his birthday. And then we see Josh Alexander defeat Ace Austin with Madman Fulton, Trey Miguel, Blake Christian, Daivari, Willie Mack, Suicide, and Chris Bay in a triple threat revolver match to become number one contender for the X Division title. I don't like this. There's too many people in the match. Alexander is a guy who, I don't know, he reminds me of a Dan Severn who needs someone to play off to become more charismatic with time, and he doesn't really have that with Ethan Page gone, and it shows here. Rules of the match: we're always going to have 3 people in. As soon as someone gets eliminated, another man comes into the gauntlet to fill the spot, and the final 3 men are left. It becomes a sudden death, winner take all, and the winner is the number 1 contender for the X Division Championship. Why these matches need to be convoluted, and the whole concept in pro wrestling of let's put everyone on every show, just it reeks of nobody wanting to offend anybody and not really wanting to commit to fewer storylines with better stories. It's a pet peeve of mine, has been since the ECW days, probably. Anyway, Suicide, Miguel, and Blake Christian. By the way, Christian's just been signed to NXT. They're the first to enter. Match starts with all 3 getting in some of their own spots. And there is Suicide and Miguel basically get out of respective moonsaults from the other. Suicide's the first one eliminated after Miguel taps him out with an hourglass submission. Miguel is decent, but doesn't have much of a story coming off the Rascals leaving. Bay enters next. He's celebrating his birthday. Bay comes in strong. He's been doing some stuff with Japan recently. Good for him. Miguel and Christian go for a couple of minutes. Christian makes a comeback with a series of ranas and hits a Spanish fly on the floor on Miguel. Ouch. Why bother with a move like that when there's no people in the crowd? They go to hit a springboard 450 on Bay. Bay comes up with a vertebreaker and gets a pin there. Daivari enters next. Miguel is out on the floor. Daivari goes after Bay and uses a power advantage. He basically tosses Bay around like he's nothing. And then, excuse me, he gets more and more confident. Miguel catches him by surprise, gets a Meteor for the pin. Josh Alexander's in next. He is all business. I think they're going for him being kind of like a Kurt Angle because he's got good wrestling skills, but he needs something. Whether it's a manager, whether it's a different gimmick, I don't really know, but he needs something. Miguel tries to lock in a sleeper, can't get him. Alexander drops Bay with a deadlift suplex. They exchange a bunch of spots. Alexander drops Bay with a torture rack into a bomb. Locks in ankle lock submission. Eliminations up next. Willie Mack comes in. Willie Mack is a, to me, bloated version of the Junkyard Dog. I don't get what his appeal is. I just really don't. And then he comes in with some lariats. He hits most of his signature stuff. They do a Tower of Doom spot where Matt gets the power bomb on Alexander, and Alexander's super flexing Miguel. Remember when like wrestling moves meant like people were trying to win matches and not work together? I do. Anyway, Mac can't keep either guy down for the pin. Matt goes to the fallaway slam on Alexander. Miguel catches him with another Meteor out of nowhere and pins Mac. Miguel, they're really trying to put over, and they do a pretty good job of it. Because by the end, if he had a character, I would care more about him based on how he has wrestled in this match. Ace Austin's final man in, and he becomes sudden death. He picked Fulton's with him, obviously. Miguel and Alexander recover and start fighting. And then each man has a small series of high spots. Trey Miguel goes nuts, takes out both Alexander and Austin, sets up for the Meteora, caught off guard by Alexander, who takes Miguel, and Miguel takes out Fulton and destroys Austin, or Alexander destroys Austin for the win. There were good points in this match. I wouldn't have gone this way. I still think Ace Austin's the best talent they have in the company. I would be putting the heavyweight championship on him. That's how much I believe in that character. Um, anyway, Josh Alexander awaits the winner of TJP and Rehet Raju for the X Division Championship somewhere down the road. I will be right back as I need to grab my phone, and we'll make that work as quickly as possible and return. And again, I think a lot of the talent here has a lot of potential, but there's also talent that wouldn't have jobs if this were, let's say, 10 years ago, 20 years ago. Um, in the sense of just they're not polished enough. I think Impact is a great territory for people who don't have it to work at a higher level, who just never connected, or developmental style territory for people getting ready to move on to bigger and better things. That's how the Impact brand kind of outlays itself. I think that's how most wrestling fans would see it. Anyway, Knockouts Championship, Fire and Flava, Hogan and Steels defeating Havoc and Nevaeh in a Texas Tornado no DQ match to retain the championships. I've actually watched both Hogan and Steels on the independents. It's awesome to see them get an opportunity here. They've got a lot of just charisma, and I think they could be doing more with them. Havoc and Nevaeh keep coming after them, and they've played good, kind of creepy or stalkerish baby faces. This is their rematch, and match-wise, on a week where AEW did a really good ECW style brawl, this lacked. Tornado rules in place. Hogan and Steels didn't necessarily do as well because that kind of cheating and the tag dynamic is what makes them really good, and so it's not here. The size differential with Havoc and Nevaeh, I think, also kind of plays into that a little bit. They had to work together to double team, and matches no DQ. Steels brings a chair in, tries to use that to get an advantage. Havoc and the chair ends up wedged in the corner. Hogan gets her hands on a kendo stick, manages to get Havoc down. Nevaeh manages to fight off both of their opponents. And then basically the women all kind of take turns beating each other up. It's chaos in the Tupelo concessions brawl from 77, 78, dialed down to a women's version 20 years later with weapon shots for the sake of weapon shots. It's not really good, it's not really bad, it's just there. Anyway, the Hogan and Steels double team Nevaeh. Steels drops her with a cutter for the win. It was fine, but it's nothing to write home about, and not where the Impact Women's Division used to be. Post-match, Havoc and Nevaeh look like they're having some sort of problems getting along. Gia Miller interviews Rich Swann, talks about being ready for Dreamer, confirmed that Moose is banned from interfering, or there will be repercussions for him doing so. Swann says he has a second gift for Dreamer, and that's a new set of teeth because he's going to knock him out. That was a good line. Kind of cool there. TJP defeats Rehet Raju to retain the X Division Championship. The feud goes back several months. Raju has been trading wins and losses with TJP. They did the mask gimmick. They've kind of run this to the end. and Shira comes back to kind of bring back the Dizzy Hit Squad thing. I'm not necessarily a huge fan of that. Raju attacks TJP before the match starts, takes him down. TJP gets a visual pin. Referee didn't count but the match hadn't officially started. Referee starts the match, and everybody brawls around the ring, goes past the guardrail, and then they get back in the ring. The bell finally rings, and basically they know each other so well that they anticipate each other's moves. Um, Basically, the entire match, well done, with a series of counters. Um, Raju gets frustrated with his inability to put away TJP. Shira on the outside attacks TJP several times. Story basically is the frustration of Raju leads to issues, um, and then TJP is injured and can't hit the Mamba Splash right off. Can't go for the pin. Raju is able to kick out of, you know, several offensive maneuvers. There's a triangle into a reverse knee bar, countered into a crossface. Um, Series of near falls, which is good. I still think TJP would do better with a manager. I love TJP in his Evolve run with Stokely Hathaway. Talk about a wasted talent down in NXT. TJP hits a series of Mamba Splashes, ending with a third to retain the title. And a lot of people like the match. It was good. I hope it's the end of the feud. I hope that they move on to something else for TJP. And Alexander looks like it's going to be it. I'm not necessarily sure I buy that, but it is what it is. Jazz, Georgiana Grace, and ODB defeat Deanna Purrazzo, Kimberly, and Susan. I don't know. Fine, I guess. Basically, Grace and Purrazzo goes all the way back to several months, goes all the way back to the debut of Purrazzo. Purrazzo, to me, is the best woman they have on the roster right now. Grace and Jazz happen to cross paths. Match sees babyfaces start hot, and they take turns hitting some dives to the outside. Everyone knows how I feel about dives. I don't feel about them any differently here. And then the heels get an advantage. Purrazzo and company separate Grace from her individuals. I don't know why you wouldn't separate out ODB or Jazz. Jazz because of age, ODB because of ring rust. But anyway, after being worked on for a couple minutes, ODB gets the hot tag, goes nuts on Susan. Match breaks down, everybody gets in the ring, hits a bunch of big moves. Susan rakes Jazz's eyes, takes out Grace in the process. Lee takes out everyone on the outside, leaving Jazz alone with Susan, who locked on the STF for the win. I don't know. You could have kept this match off the show, and I don't think it would have hurt.